So tonight, in tonight's forum, as you know, we are going to hear from the property committee. And they have been working for almost a year now on gathering this information, getting reports, scheduling folks to come in. And of course, COVID shut us down for a little while, and we weren't able to get people in the building until we could understand how to do that safely. And then we had to work with people's schedules. And so I realized that it feels like a really long time since we started talking about property. And it kind of has been, but this information, a lot of it is still pretty new. So the property committee has been meeting regularly and has been digesting this information and taking some steps to get even more information. And so what you're going to hear tonight is kind of the overview. There, you will have access to reports, so you'll be able to, if you want to, look at those reports and read them for yourself. We're not going to go through the reports in detail in this meeting because a lot of people don't. It's kind of a little bit tedious for some of it. So we're going to hit the high points for you, but there will be ample time and ability for you to look at those reports if you want to. Let's see, and I want to thank the property committee members who are here. I know Dick's going to introduce them in a moment, not quite yet, but I want to thank you all that are here because this really has been a lot of work and a lot of hours, and you have been very faithful and you have done a great job. And so I thank you for bringing this good work for the congregation tonight. So let's see, there'll be some screen sharing. You saw that a minute ago. Maybe we could put that agenda back up and we'll cover a few points about screen sharing. Thank you, April, for helping us with that. Okay, so when we screen share, you see April's screen. And so now at the top of your screen, you should see a green box that says you are viewing April Oristano's screen. And then to the right of that, it says view options. And there's that little tiny arrow. And if you click on that and that's just yours. If you click on that arrow, another little menu pops up and you can choose some different things. One of the things you can choose is side-by-side mode, which I have checked on mine, and then that shows on one side of the screen, April's screen, and on another side, some faces. It lines the faces up. So that might be something you want to do. And then also at the very top, it says zoom ratio. And if you put your cursor on that, you'll get even another box, which you can slide over to, and you can choose to make that screen larger. So if you have reduced or limited vision, you can make your screen be much bigger so that the text on the screen is easier for you to read. So if anyone needs that and is having trouble with that during the presentation tonight, please say something in the chat. Karen, do you have a question?
I can understand how to use it, but I don't have all the options that you outlined, Amy.
Okay, thank you. What device are you using, Karen?
I'm using a Chromebook.
Okay. Sometimes iPads are a little different too, or just different brands of those little pads will be a little different and have some limited function with these. So what are you not seeing, Karen?
Well, I can tell you what I am seeing. I'm
Great.
seeing two options. One is fit to window, and the other is enter full screen. Those are the only two I'm seeing. So, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Okay, it might be possible that you have an older version of Zoom that's not allowing you to do that.
I was wondering about that. It's not a big deal.
Okay, play around with those a little bit and see if you can find one that works for you. But if you're having any trouble accessing any of the information, most of it you'll just be listening tonight. But please use the chat if you miss something or have a question. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Great. Yes. And I can't see anyone. Let's see. I'm going to scroll through. If you have your hand up, I'm going to look for you because I can't see everyone at once right now. All right. I don't see any more hands. If you're joining us on audio only and we can't see you, please also use the chat so that we can make sure that we get your question and get your comment, and you can interact. Great. Okay, so let's get started. I am going to ask Jerry to please open us up in prayer, if she would. So Jerry, you may be on mute.
Yes, now we are.
There you are.
Hello,
Okay.
everybody. I'm glad to see you all here. I'm glad there's a large group of people who is able to be here with us tonight, and I know there will be more people that are watching us later on. So let's pray. Oh God, thank you for this building that we have grown to love. Help us to listen with open ears and open hearts as we hear more details about what we've discovered through the different people that we've had walking through our building and testing different things, and what that means for us as far as structure and all of those things. We also pray that you would be with us as we put on our imaginary lenses and begin to see anew what the building means and what the church means, and where those two things are the same and where those two things are different. But more than anything, open our ears, open our hearts to receive this information so that we can move forward. For it's not one person or one committee who makes the decisions. It is the body of the membership of First Christian Church Eugene who will make decisions about what happens and setting priorities and things like that. So we ask that you guide us, that you be with us, that those of us who are here tonight will check in with other people that they didn't see here and invite them to watch the recorded version or watch the recorded meeting tonight and be able to add their questions into the questions that are already on the table. God, I pray that you would be with each and every person who's presenting. 5 minutes is not a lot of time. We pray that you would help them to stay focused and speak clearly about the issues in their section of this whole report tonight. And God, we just thank you for your love that binds us together and makes us one. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Jerry. So next we have Chair of Property, Dick Busick, and he's going to introduce to you who the members of your property team are. So Dick, we're ready for you.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. First of all, I want to say thanks to the executive committee and staff that have arranged this forum. I appreciate all the cooperation you've continued to give the property committee, and we feel like we're ready. And so we appreciate the opportunity and look forward to more of these forums. And I want to give thanks to people who have worked on the property committee. David Freisinger, longtime property manager, jack of all trades, loved this building. Matt Cody had the privilege of shadowing him, and Matt's on our property committee. You'll hear from him in a minute. And so Matt knows how to lead us into every corner and crevice in the church building right now. Wayne Hayner, a complete career in construction. He can look at our building and understand its structure like no one else can. He's one of our key persons on our team. Mary Broby. Mary grew up in Eugene, and she worked as a sales and fabricator for steel. But she got acquainted with so many people in this community that if we need any help, she knows who to talk to, who to reach out to. She's been a wonderful help. And of course, also that wonderful fence. If you look up on our porch and you see the little designs up there, she looked at those and said, those need to be on that fence. And that fence has helped us be safer, be able to serve better, and it has not distracted from our church view at all. I appreciate her leadership there. She also knows ADA, she knows the kitchen, and she'll tell you more about that. Glenn Gibbons is not able to be with us, but Glenn worked really hard in the church. He helped with the rain garden. He put a program together to see if we could become a partner in saving sacred places. And he worked real hard with our application, and we were very close to winning that option. And we may be able to do it again, thanks to Glenn. Linda Korth, she's well known in the community for being able to put buildings together. And her son, Steve, came and worked with us. And Steve was most helpful in knowing how to talk to the fire marshal. And that's very important. John Hazen. John has been a plumber all of his life, probably been in your home and helped you with some of your plumbing issues. And he knows the plumbing situation. I'm so glad, although he's not been able to be here tonight, that he put a video together and you'll be able to hear from him. Tom Koslowski, past president, he came to our meetings. He didn't have to, but he did. And I appreciate his support. Glenn Campbell, the head of admin team, he kept an ongoing spreadsheet of all the projects that we presented to admin, and he came to the meetings as he could. And then there are people like Mel and Letha who just showed up because they saw what could be done and they did it beautifully. And down close to the Highland Room, you've seen a lot of their work, and they've made it possible for our custodian to have the kind of equipment that's needed to do his job the best he can. Vision builders, under the eye of Phyllis Weir, we are very careful to follow her directions. She's taught us how to take care of flowers and the garden and anything around the church building. And we've been just trying to keep it clean and neat and paint the inside and outside whenever we could. There's more, and I just don't have time to share all of it. And it's already been mentioned that the property committee doesn't make decisions. We provide information and we talk about what we think are priorities. Admin picks up on that. They may take it to the executive committee. They may take it to the board. But anything that affects all of us, like what we're talking about, that means you as members of the congregation are the top decision makers. And that's why we bring you this information. We're so thankful you're here. We will do our very best to interpret what we have been learning. I'm going to turn this over now to Matt, and he'll take the next period of time.
Thank you, Dick. My name is Matthew Cody. I'm part of the maintenance staff at First Christian Church. As Dick said, I learned the building firsthand from David Freisinger. There is some deferred maintenance because we have not always had the money through the years to keep up the building. So we've gotten a little behind. If we looked around the building and walked through the place, we could find it adding up as we looked to about $500,000 in deferred building maintenance. I'll take questions.
So Matthew, can I ask you, maybe if you could talk a little bit about what some of that deferred maintenance has been, some things that have popped up. Thanks.
Yeah, one of the big ones, we've accomplished just last year, painting the south and west side of the church. Of course, we still have the east and north side of the church, and most pressing in the last few years is the bell tower that has not been painted in enough time. I was trying to think of some other stuff. Obviously, you know, there's other places of the church that I know we'll get into, of other items like plumbing and other things.
Matthew, do you have like a spreadsheet or some kind of written form of the deferred maintenance and costs, the itemized list to share?
I would have to refer to USIC. I know we've had various lists throughout the years of the stuff we're trying to check off.
Matthew, this is Donna. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Do you have a like a priority? Do you prioritize maybe some of a lot of smaller items to get them out of the way, or do you prioritize by urgency of items?
Yeah, we've been prioritizing via how urgent it is to keeping up the building. Like, for instance, the painting of the south and west walls of the church was a major priority to stop the water incursion in the building. So we try and take priority of how urgent it is to the building's need.
We've also had some water leakage and things that needed to be addressed, and that was a chimney was leaking into other rooms, and it just, those things have been pretty much taken care of. There's still some small repairs that need to do, so we're trying to keep it environmentally safe right now.
We have a question of what is most urgent now in deferred maintenance?
Again, like I was saying, I think John will bring up plumbing is one thing in the church. That's what I see, other than just little small painting projects that are, like I said, the bell tower is in need of painting.
Thank you. I think there is still a list, so we can work on making that list available for folks who want to take a look at that. So Jean, if you would make a note of that prioritized list that we have, we can make that available for people to look at.
Good.
Great. Any other questions for Matthew real quick? Please use the chat because I may not be able to see you. You're on 2 screens now, people. All right, so next we have Wayne Hayner, who's going to talk to us about the seismic study results from KPFS.
Wayne? Is he muted?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so we had a little technical difficulty. I think I'm speaking. As anyone can hear me? We're doing fine?
We can hear you, Wayne.
Okay, so I'm a part of the property committee and have been for a couple of years. My experience is I've been a journey level carpenter for 40 plus years. My career has taken me to being a carpenter and then being a superintendent of construction projects, mostly commercial type work, which our church would fall under. And I've done a lot of seismic retrofitting, seismic repair on schools, banks, all different kinds of buildings that relate to the entire public. And some of these buildings, they just require that the seismic work will be done, period. For instance, the school. So we have to have our children in a safe building. We have to, all of that happens. So it is, in our situation, the property committee as being very proactive. We're not being told by the city or by anybody else that we have to do all these things. We are still at the proactive end of things. And so when I say proactive, I say we got in touch with Arbor South Architecture, and they've been a great asset to our church over a number of years, probably more years than I've even been involved. And in that process, we determined that being proactive, we would get an engineer to look at our building. So we did. We called KPFF Engineering through Arbor South. They came to our building and they did an extensive amount of research on how our building is put together, floor by floor, everything that involves structure, to bring it up to a code that would meet the government requirements for us to meet inside the sanctuary, for instance, with a full sanctuary full of people. If there was a seismic event, we would be safer than we are now. And we could get everyone out of the building properly. So we did that with KPFF, who is an engineering firm. So we got Arbor South, we got KPFF Engineering, then we put it out for bid. And we put it out for bid to several different contractors. And because of the times, because of the amount of work that's going on, we really only got one response. We got a response from an excellent company, Essex Construction, and they came in and they used the engineered drawings from KPFF to bring our building up to seismic standards. And it's very extensive. It would require a huge amount of work, somewhere in the area well over $1 million, maybe well over $1.25 million. So when we do that work, what exactly do we get out of it? And what we get out of it is a building that is seismically retrofitted, but nothing else. We don't get a larger sanctuary. We don't get a new kitchen. We don't get a new elevator. We don't get some of these things. It brings our building up to seismic standards. And it's a situation where we would start probably from the roof and work down. We would tie the exterior walls of the existing building to the basement, first floor, second floor, third floor. We would tie those all together, which is a considerable amount of work, and which would bring us up to code. And beyond that, I really don't have a whole lot to say other than we don't get something else out of this. We just bring it up to where we should be. And it's a simple matter of being, we're actually ahead of the game if you think about it in this way, where we are not being required by anybody to do anything at this point. But we will be required at some point. And the city does have a lot of questions and things that they want us to do to make our buildings safer, so that when we have a few people in the building, when we have the building full of people, we're going to be safe and to be as safe as we can possibly be.
Wait, you're at,
yeah.
excuse me, you're at 5 minutes. So I just want to give you that time check.
All right. Okay. So I'll take questions as best I can answer them.
Thank you. We have one that says, is there assistance available from public or private entities to make these improvements?
Is there assistance for public and private entities? I suspect so. If someone, I guess I'm not sure I understand totally what you're asking, but if someone wants to help us, absolutely. We have somewhat of a, the city knows who we are and what we do, clearly. They're very much aware of what we are and what we do and what we want to continue to do. So yeah, we have lots of opportunity for anybody that wants to participate in any way that they can.
I think he's specifically asking about grants, so financial assistance.
Yeah, that's not my area of expertise at all. That'd be somebody else.
So that's a question that we will record and keep, and that will be something we'll be looking into. Okay, let's see.
We also have a question of, do we have information on the type of damage the building would be likely to sustain at seismic activity levels, like earthquakes of various magnitudes? And what's the risk or trade-off of not doing the seismic retrofitting?
Well, I guess I'd say that.
This is from Anna.
Yes, I would say that there is nothing like that. We don't know what would happen to the building in a seismic event or a fire or whatever. Actually, we don't know that. But what we do know is what would be required of us based upon where we are. So Eugene is in about the middle of seismic areas. If we were in Anchorage, Alaska, it would be much worse. We'd have to do a lot more work. If we were in Los Angeles, more work. But where we are is somewhere in the middle, and we can't predict what would happen to the building in a seismic event specifically. But we can predict that if we do the work, we have done the work. If you understand what I'm saying, we have done everything we possibly can, and no one can predict seismic events. You know, if we always say, if you get the big one, you're done. If you get a smaller one, we're going to be safe. So we are just going to do what is required, you know, basically by the city of Eugene and the government in itself. And it's not a shot in the dark. There's huge studies that go on based upon where we are in a seismic event. And we are not in the worst end of things at all. So there's, as I say, Alaska and Los Angeles are much worse shape than we are. And so these things that they're requiring us to do are very labor intense, but they're very doable. And they're very expensive.
Wayne, I'm wondering if you can tell us what degree of protection such a retrofitting project would give us. Would that save our building from collapse, or would it protect life and safety long enough to get people out? So what degree of structural support?
Yeah, really a very difficult question to answer because we don't know what the seismic activity is going to happen. But what we can say is that we'll get people out of the building. I mean, this is a very difficult thing to say, but we'll get people out of the building in a seismic event. But if the seismic event is catastrophic, it's catastrophic. So what we are going to do, what KPFF Engineering, Essex Construction, Arbor South Architecture, these are people that really understand all of these minute details, and they're sharing with us how we can retrofit the building so that we have the best option possible to get everybody out and certainly no one hurt or loss of life. But that's the best you can say. It's just based upon the seismic event that happens at the time. And I really want to stress the fact that we have been proactive on this. We're not waiting around for the city to tell us what to do. We've spent a lot of money, a lot of time, and we're working diligently to make the building as safe and proper as we possibly can. And it will be safer than, well, I'm not going to say safer than anything. It will be as safe as an engineer could possibly make it.
Thank you, Wayne. All right, and thank you, Matthew. I'm not sure I thanked you before, but I appreciated your sharing as well. All right, so now we're going to move on to Mary Brorby, and she has information for us on ADA accessibility and the kitchen.
Okay, so we'll start with ADA, and I made notes so I don't drift too far. We're looking at the possibility of putting an ADA ramp into the basement, which has already been discussed with Arbor South. They would like to put one in through the alley door that goes into the boiler room. And I had a suggestion of putting a ramp in the dirt and flower area that runs parallel to the windows in the parlor in the basement. So we would take that dirt out and attempt to put a ramp in there, and it would terminate at the tunnel door. So go right on down to that instead of in through all the electrical panels we have in the boiler room area. I contacted Lila, which is Lane Independent Living Alliance. Their theme is to empower people with disabilities. They came over and gave me some suggestions and said we had enough run or length to put in a nice ADA ramp, as did the specialist from Habitat for Humanity, who also came over and looked at the site. So it's a possibility. I can't get you any figures on that cost, and it's not a necessity now. It's not being required by the fire marshal or anybody. It might help us if we looked on how we're going to use our basement in the future, if we had more renters and that kind of thing down there. But to get a price, we have to excavate some of the soil and see what the subsurface is, and if the parlor wall's stable and without that infill. So there's some unknowns there, and there just needs to be more work done on it. But like I said, it's not a necessity now as some other projects are. So if anybody has any questions on that, I guess you can chat. I don't know if anybody's done it. Any chats on that? And if not, I'll move on to the kitchen.
We don't have any chats on that right now, Mary.
Good.
We just might.
I know. All right. Well, we'll move on to the kitchen. So the kitchen renovation, and the renovation I'm talking about is just the hood in the kitchen. Right now we have an order from the fire marshal that if we continue the Sunday breakfast as we have it with grease and that on the griddle, that we have to install a type 1 hood, which is a hood that has self-discharging fire suppression system. So I'm going to look at my notes here, and as quoted from the fire marshal's violation report that we did get, where cooking appliances produce grease or smoke as a result of the cooking process, type 1 hood should be installed over those cooking appliances that produce grease and smoke. So a lot of this is being driven by the ministry of the Sunday breakfast. So that's something to keep in mind for the future. We can invest in a ventless hood, which would save us a considerable amount of money because it does not have to be vented up through the floor, or I guess the ceiling of the kitchen, and then on up. There has to be a certain draft, and then we'd have to go out through a sidewall. So we're looking at that expense if we were to just put in a regular type 1 hood. But if we put in a ventless hood, which is actually a stainless steel contained booth, has 3 sides that block off the view in the line of sight in the kitchen, and would darken it somewhat because it would obscure some of the light coming through the windows in the basement. But the 3-sided booth, as I call it, would hold the hood, and the hood would be a type 1 hood, which is one thing we're being asked to do. And it would just slide right over the existing stove that we have. So I've been in contact with Taylor Restaurant Equipment and Construction out of Cresswell. I think they just redid the Tara Ren by us, and they also just developed the second Tara Ren in town out by Safeway in the Coburg Road area. So they've done a lot of restaurant reconstruction. So I worked with them, and we got a bid from them in December of 2019 for $28,093. That includes the hood, the install, what else was it? The demolition. They'll probably have to take out the one long cabinet where people dry dishes on Sundays. Then they would put that back in because it's quite a large piece of equipment they have to move downstairs. And in addition to that, there'd be about another $4,000 expense for permits, electrical wiring. A third party has to come in and add the fire suppression. So you're looking at an estimated total on that of $32,093. And since we did not put a deposit down on that figure, the gentleman from Taylor's informed me there'd probably be a 10% increase in 2020 because the hood manufacturer had already given him new pricing for 2020 for the hood and all the assembly of the booth that goes around it. So about a 10% increase on top of the 32,000 that we were quoted last year. So that's basically the kitchen renovation part that I was looking at. And it's a great company, but it also depends on what happens with our ministries. So the breakfast with the bacon and the sausage
Mary,
is part of it. Yes.
So Mary,
Yes.
we have two questions for you. First of all, are there used options for the type 1 hood, or do we need new for safety aspects?
If we continue.
And secondly,
go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Part of it
okay, that was the first question. Are there options for?
Go ahead, Jean.
Part of it depends on. Okay, I'll shut up and how's your kid? The question is, are there used options?
Okay, I think what I'm understanding is, are there options? We're working with two different fire marshals and we don't know if they're talking to each other. So we have Keith Haggis and we have Sandra Johnson, who created this document in September of 2019 about violations we had in the church. And the hood in the kitchen with the ministry we're doing in the basement would need to be replaced if we continued doing that ministry with the volume of food we're putting out. So that's a big part of it also. It's the numbers we're putting out on a daily or a weekend basis. And it's the type of food that we're serving. Creates grease and fire potential. Sandra Johnson, the fire marshal I've been working with, said that if we used it just for church potlucks and that, there's a good possibility we could be grandfathered in with a stove and the hood we have, because I told her I personally have never seen the grill used for church potlucks or any of that. So she said that that would be a consideration. And it would probably also cut down on our egress needs, which is evacuating people with the lights and the signage from the building.
Thanks, Mary. We have just a couple more minutes for questions.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jean.
Second question, Jean.
Okay, next question is, has there been, next question is, has there been any conversation about moving the stove to the far wall where the sinks are?
No.
Did you get that?
I did.
Okay.
I've never
Have
heard
there
that.
been any conversation?
Go ahead, Jean.
Jean's having some trouble with her audio, I think.
Okay.
Jean, I can ask that question for you.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. The two questions were, the first one was, is there an option possibly on a used hood for the stove? Do we have resources to look if there might be a used one at a lower price? Or is that maybe not a possibility? So that's a question. And then the other one was, you answered about the question about possibly moving the stove, and it sounds like that we haven't really discussed that yet.
I've never heard of that question, you know, being asked of the property committee. I'm sure it's something we could look into. I mean, we're gonna have to pay for electrical anyway, but is that just a matter of flow in the kitchen? I don't understand the move.
So, Mary, maybe you could write a little more about that in the future. I see Jerry had her hand up. Did you have a question, Jerry? No. Okay. All right. I also see that April made a comment that regarding the ADA, that we have some ADA needs beyond the ramp. One thing that we've discussed is the elevator is very small and will only house transport one person in a wheelchair at a time, and so that's a question. Okay. And then Mary says, how urgent is the hood replacement if we are not cooking the Sunday breakfast? Well, we're not cooking the Sunday breakfast right now, right? We're doing the downtown food hub. So,
right.
Yeah.
So Sandra, the fire marshal I've worked with, and Keith Haggis is actually her boss, and he's been working with Dick on some things. So I don't know if he'll come in and override Sandra, but she told me that if we curtailed the greasy things and the number of people we serve in the kitchen, we could possibly get grandfathered in with the existing hood for just the church congregational use.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, we're going to have to move on, but again, we've got everybody's question, and we can follow up with some of those if we need to.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Mary.
You're welcome.
All right, and lastly, we have a video from John Hazen that he provided us about plumbing and stained glass windows. And so April will.
I will now to controlling your monitor temporarily. I'm going to mute myself first. Unmuted, never mind.
Hello, I'm John Hazen. I'm a member of the property committee, and I'll be sharing my thoughts on both plumbing and the stained glass windows in the sanctuary. Plumbing, because I've been a plumber for my career, and I've been at the church for over 20 years. So I want to assure you that a lot of the plumbing throughout the church is in good shape. Bathrooms on the main floors and the upper floors are all very functional, if not recent. And we've got a new water heater system and mop sink systems in place. But in 1911, when the building was built, they put pipes down below the concrete floor of the basement. And that is a place where we need to address sometime soon. We have hot water pipes that have been abandoned under that basement. So Helping Hands no longer has hot water to their sink and to their washing machine. And the cold water pipes, if they fail, then we would be eliminating cold water to that area and other areas also. So my thoughts are to abandon the two existing bathrooms in the basement, the men and women's, and create a new bathroom in the Francis Highland room. This is a plan put together by Arbor South some time ago. That project, plumbing-wise, would probably be in the $30,000 neighborhood. And if we extrapolate those costs, I would guess that bathroom system would be somewhere in the $150,000 to $200,000. And that would upgrade all of our plumbing underneath the floor that needs to be upgraded and get hot water to Helping Hands. The other concern I have is is if we return our kitchen to Sunday breakfasts, turn it into a commercial kitchen, we have no grease interceptors, which prevents the grease from going down the system in the drainage. And that's adding to some higher maintenance costs for us, and the city would be very unhappy with us. So I'm going to move on to stained glass windows. Our sanctuary has a small but very significant collection of POVI stained glass windows that Carlisle and I assessed in 2007. Since that time, several of the windows that were in sad shape have been addressed, and we've stabilized those windows, but there's 2 large windows over top the choir loft that need not only to be assessed, but addressed if they need work done on them. And those are 2 very large windows in a very difficult space to get to. But as far as maintaining those windows, it's very important because this is a very valuable collection of stained glass windows. In 2007, it was valued at over $1 million. So there's the good news and there's the bad news. I'll leave you with that. If you have any questions, please let people know, and I can address those when I'm back with you. Thank you.
John's not with us, as we know, but we'll record any questions that you have. And I don't know if anyone else on property feels that they can speak to the particular question you have, but we'll write them all down.
Doesn't look like we have any questions at the present. Oh, yes, we do. One. If we remove the basement bathrooms, where would we go from, what would go where they are now? Anybody want to? Okay, we'll table that. And another says, is there an estimate of the cost of refurbishing the 2 big south windows? And we'll table that one for later.
All right, great. Thank you for those questions, and please keep them coming. And if you think of them later, let us know. We want to keep collecting your questions. I did note that I saw Stephen and Mary both commented on the possibility of discontinuing meat cooking and going to a plant-based diet. So that's an idea. That's a great idea. So keep those ideas coming as well. You guys are great.
So's a food truck.
All right. Okay. So at this point, I think we would like to, you've heard a lot, right? A lot of information, a lot of big numbers, and a lot of things that need to be fixed, things that need to be upgraded, things that need to be changed. And all of these are impact our ministries and our life at the church, which at present is different. And we, as a community of First Christian Church, are not meeting in our church right now from week to week. So the good thing about that is we have this opportunity, we have this time to create more conversation and thoughts and ideas and dreams around our ministries, our building. What do we dream of? What can we do? How can we see that happening? And how can we move forward together jointly as a congregation to make those dreams realities? So this is a really exciting time, even though we're not seeing each other. There's other exciting things going on, and I thank you all for being here and being part of this. April, I'm hoping that maybe you can provide a moment of prayer for us about this information that we just heard, and our hearts right now. Thank you.
Indeed. I'm outside. I don't know if you can or can't tell. You probably can hear the sirens now. That meets us in our moment. That will preach. I'm going to let them pass because I also want to invite everybody to just remember, are we still breathing? As we take in this information and as we think about, as the brain begins to think and process and make plans, I want to invite you to just have a moment of calming breathing together, because I've not been in a virtual or a real room with 37 households in a long time, and I'm so grateful for that shared energy. I'm outside where I do a lot of my contemplation and get my groundedness, and so I invite you to go deeper into that breathing space. Continue. This whole meeting has been prayer and prayerful, and let us breathe together and ask for more of God's voice in this time. Please join me. Holy One, we are breathing with you now. And with one another. We have been listening so intently across these internet waves for every word, for every prayerful thought, for every good question to flow through us. Thank you. Our ears are full and they are still open. Our hearts are eager and nervous and excited and weary. But we never lose hope, God. We can wait. We can ask questions. We can pray. God, we ask you in this time that you would help us think more clearly and with more care for one another. For while we are here now, we know 50 or maybe 100 households will listen tomorrow or the next day or next week. And beyond that, we know that we are more than even 150 or 300 households. We know that our impact and our community is so much more than that. Help us dream. Guide us as we talk with each other and we share what we've heard tonight with someone else. Guide us as we listen for your dreams to flow through us, as we listen for the consensus among us, the dream that is meeting the dream in someone else, and always, God, may it be your dream and vision. Help us attune even more clearly to your heart. How do we care for all that has been placed in our hands? And what is required of us? We are listening, and we will carry this with one another, and we are so blessed for our community. We are so blessed to be with each other. In your many, many names we pray. Amen.
Thank you, April. So you also had some ideas on what comes next. What happens next for us? You'd like to wait a moment. That's fine. Okay. I'm going to go back over here to the chat. Oh, okay. Go ahead whenever you're ready. Unless you need more time. I can answer some questions on chat if that would be better.
I just am working for my mute button. As we move forward, the executive ministry team, the property committee, these are some of the questions, the wondering questions that we have, that we know that you also have. I mean, these are big pieces of information that we hope you will revisit. And because when you hear detailed, you need to come back and make sure you heard it right, that kind of moment. Did I hear that properly? Or what other questions might I have? But even so, we are hopeful that you will spend some processing time with God and with one another to think about how we will get a sense of priority. All these pieces, from seismic work to ADA work to what is our ministry work, how will we get a sense of priority? And we've already been asking the question, how will these projects impact our ministries? How do we want our ministries to impact the world? And what are the possibilities now? What are the possibilities for our congregation, for our ministries? And what is the building's purpose in that? I know that the executive ministry is also very interested in asking this question from the other way as well. What parts of the building are so important to us that we wouldn't want to lose? What parts of it, when we think of that seismic activity, what are those parts we don't want to lose? But what are those pieces we want to keep in place because of the vision of where we're going? What other information do we need to make a good decision? That's where your questions are already helping the property committee. Everything that's in the chat that we haven't been able to address today, we want to revisit with you. We want to have answers to those questions, and you're going to have more. So they need a couple of weeks to put some of those questions into research and engagement so that we can put together another forum and return here. These are the questions that we hope to send with you tonight, and we are going to keep the questions you've asked of us. I'm not actively looking at the chat, but I see there are 3 more things in there, whatever they are. So as it keeps coming, that's how it works. I want to turn back over to Amy and say that at the end of this, we plan to put it onto our website, and we will put things that can be helpful to the discussion on our website as well. And we need to equip folks with where they can send their continued questions in the interim, or if we'd like them to hold them and bring them to the next forum. How would we like to help with that? When I feel done there.
Thank you, April. Yes, so how would we like to collect these? Well, we have collected the ones tonight. How would we like to collect those, April? I'm not actually sure the answer. Maybe the property committee. I don't know. You can send them to me. That's fine. Jerry has her hand up. Go ahead, Jerry.
When people watch this recording later on, will they also be able to put things in chat?
No, they will not. So we need to have a collection system for that. For now, go ahead and just send them to me, and I'll collect them. I have an email at amy@theheartofelugene.org. Remember, it's .org. That is fine. I can collect those, and thank you, April. And we can make sure those get to the right place. But we may have another system that we come up with in the future. But for now, that's great. Do that. Yes, and we'll give a couple of weeks. There will be another property forum in the future. There's also going to be other fora. Is that the plural? Okay. for other topics, the teachers out there can tell me. So right, but we'll have more from property, or more conversations in general. This is obviously not a one and done topic because this is a very big, meaty topic, and it's going to take a while and a lot of talking for us to figure out what this means for us. And I would really like to encourage everyone to dream, to pray, to prioritize your dreams and your yearnings for our church. Think about our ministries that we do. Think about what really makes your heart sing. That is something we do at the church, or something that we have at the church, or a place, or anything like that. What about our property and our building is just, do you treasure? What is just so important to you? What about being in our space do you treasure? Is it the organ? Is it the dome? Is it the coffee house? You know, what is it that we're in downtown Eugene? So think about those things. Think about how we've been using our building for ministry, and dream about how we might use it in the future differently, possibly, because we have time to dream right now. And then lastly, I want you to think of how and if and how you can be involved. Maybe you can be involved by filling a volunteer position. Maybe you can be involved by helping to research some of these questions. Maybe you can be involved because you are just a super prayer warrior and you can daily pray for our church and our building and our staff. Maybe you can help fundraise. I don't know. Think about how can you be involved? It's great. It's all important. We need all of it. We really need prayers. That's the most important, right? And everyone can do that. So you can be involved in this process. And we're so happy that you've had such a great turnout, and to see all your lovely faces, and that all of you had interest in being here and hearing this important information tonight. It's really been a great meeting. So I think I am done. Is there anything else from April or Jerry or Dick?
God bless you all for your deep, deep listening ears. And I look forward to the continued conversation. That's all I'll say.
That sounds perfect. That sounds perfect. Well, blessings to you all. I'm smiling so much because really seeing all your faces really does bring me so much joy that I didn't even realize how much I was missing until I saw, all of you on here. I've got 2 pages of faces of people that I love and haven't seen for a long time. So thank you all for being involved and caring. Much love and peace to the rest of your week.
Can any of you hear me?
I can hear you, Dick.
I just want to say a big thank you to all of you who made this possible, and it's the right thing. And I think if nothing else, it'll lead to a bunch of small steps, as April was talking about in her sermon. That we don't need to rush through all of this, but it was time to talk about it. And it helps the property committee feel possible, that there are possibilities if we start talking about it. I know there are options, so we didn't want to talk about them this time, but there's a number of options that have kind of emerged for the property too. So we'll bring those up as time comes along.
We will. Thank you so much for all your work, Dick.
No problem.
I'm going to stay on for just a minute longer. If anyone else has a question for me or needs anything for me, I'm just going to hang out for a sec. But you guys are free to go when you're ready or free to stay and ask a question.
Mhm.
And then have we saved the chat already? Okay, but we will.
I have finished. I see that we are reducing in our numbers, so I'm going to go ahead and save the chat now.
That sounds good. Phyllis, I see you on three boxes, my friend. I hope you did join us. I hope that worked out for you. All right, great job, everybody. That was a really good meeting. I appreciate you all.
Thank you. Thank you for hard work. Big, big hearts. Everybody had their big hearts here, and I'm grateful for that.
Me too. I love this group.
I've
All right.
Chat, and I'm ready to sign off if you are.
All right, I'm ready. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thanks. Good night.
Bye.